Powered by Sports Interaction, Canada Sportsbook.
Ladies and gentlemen, how are we doing tonight? Welcome back to Game Over Winnipeg on a night where the Winnipeg Jets lose 4-2 to the New Jersey Devils. We got lots to talk about here tonight. Obviously, coming off of last game against Columbus, it was the Columbus game was a bit of a, sorry to swear so early, but a bit of a clusterfuck. And at this point in the season, it just seems like the Jets needed to make some changes, and Rick Bowness agreed with that. And tonight we got a lot of changes. He said he wanted to switch up how the lines were going to be. He wanted to switch up the power play, as we saw last game where the Jets went 1 for 7 on their power plays, and as well as 0 for 3 on the 5-on-3s. So tonight we did get some new lines. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about the game. Again, tough loss. I think the Jets played decently well, but again, a couple mistakes cost them late in the game. A little too nonchalant. But regardless, we're going to get into all that. We're going to talk about it. But first, want to bet? Then get in on the action at Sports Interaction. The boys of summer are back on the diamond, and March Madness is on deck. Bet pregame, live and play, or on one of our many prop bets. Sports Interaction makes it easy to deposit, play, and cash out. Head to sportsinteraction.com/SDPN, or in Ontario, download the app now using the QR code at the bottom of the screen. 19 plus, please play responsibly. Alrighty, guys. Oh man, where to even start tonight? As I said, Rick Bowness thought the effort the other night, as well as just in general how the team played against the Columbus Blue Jackets, was unacceptable. I would have to concur. If you were here in the chat last game, you know that Liz and I had a bit of an aneurysm trying to dissect that game. And tonight, I'm actually not as upset about this game as you may think. Although I am upset about some of the calls in the third, which again, we'll dive into all that. But I think that Rick Bowness deciding to make a change to the lineup was a good thing. I think that it was kind of needed, as he's kind of, he's been mixing things up in the top six, trying Perfetti with Dubois and Connor, as well as moving Ehlers around, seeing what really works in that top six. And for a while now, it's gotten a little bit stale, and the Jets haven't been playing great as of late. Obviously, case in point, the Columbus game. So tonight we get some very different lines, which when they got tweeted out, I think rightfully so, everyone kind of freaked out a little bit, or at least got, a little panicky. We're a little confused at this lineup. Of course, the lines were Connor, Dubois, and Saku Menelainen. Okay. Cole Perfetti, Mark Scheifele, and Mason Appleton. That's kind of a trio we've kind of already seen, or we may have already seen that actually with Connor on that instead of Perfetti. But we've seen Scheifele play with Appleton earlier in the season prior to Appleton getting hurt, so I wasn't too surprised to see those guys together. And then drop down to the third line, we have Nikolai Ehlers with Adam Lowry and Blake Wheeler. And then finally, of course, Morgan Barron drops down to that fourth line, plays with Kevin Stenlin, as well as Carson Kuhlman, who draws back into the lineup for Sam Gagner. And let's talk about those lines. I think that's actually, before we break down those lines, I think we should just talk about kind of how the game went. I'm just going to give you kind of my thought process as each period goes. It's just the easiest way to kind of block it out. Start of the game. Jets get outshot in the first period, although I wasn't too worried. I thought that they came out playing pretty hard. One of the things I will say about this set of lineup, it felt like there was almost always someone it felt like every line was playing pretty decently. The Jets weren't getting a ton of really good chances. However, they played really hard, and I thought they didn't allow a lot. Again, like I said, shots were 10-6 for the Devils, but if you look at the expected goal stuff, it was pretty much even. The Jets created a decent amount of chances. We had Cole Perfetti making a couple nice plays, as well as, of course, in the first period, we have a couple goals by the Jets, as well as one against. The first goal, the Perfetti goal, just in the perfect spot. Neil Pionk fires a shot from the point. Mark Scheifele gets a little tip on it. Rebound pops out right to Perfetti. Great. Perfect. Fantastic. right, just as you draw it up, this is the textbook type of play the Jets want to be creating their offense off of, what they've kind of modeled their offense off of is, getting a lot of shots on from the point, creating chaos in front, and hopefully the puck bounces out to you and you get to put it in an open net. But even past that, again, later on, Pierre-Luc rips an absolute shot. Or sorry, sorry. I'm jumping ahead of myself. My first issue, 19 seconds after the Cole Perfetti goal, the Dubois line, unfortunately allows, or was it the Dubois line? No, it was not. I apologize. It was a weird, like, Connor, Dubois, and Wheeler line. They like to put this out to try and, mix things up every now and then. And Wheeler kind of gets caught in no man's land on this one, I thought. And unfortunately, Nate Schmidt, while trying to block the pass, unfortunately puts the puck in his own net. Regardless, I think if that would have got over across to Thomas Tatar, I think he probably would have done the exact same thing as Nate Schmidt. But regardless, it is a 1-1 hockey game. And, the thing that they teach you playing hockey when you're growing up, the biggest thing, you cannot allow a goal to shift after you score a goal. Unfortunately, the Jets fail on that one. So again, 1-1 hockey, and then, like I said before, Neil Pionk rips an absolute blast from the shot. A nice little play. Shifley brings it into the zone, does a nice little cutback, has the wherewithal to see that Dylan's alone at the point, passes it up to him. He brings it across to Pionk, and he rips a shot in front. Mason Appleton, a fantastic screen by him. Like that goal, he's not going to get an assist on it, but that's the type of assist that you get, it doesn't count for anything, but I think the coach should, give him a little pat on the back for that one, because that goal doesn't happen without him, in my opinion. But like I said, first period, a bit back and forth. The Jets did decent to capitalize on their chances, but also at the same time, there were times with, Kevin Stenlin where he got a nice pass across from Carson Kuhlman. Unfortunately, gets his stick lifted. But the Jets were, like I said, the Jets were creating. I was actually pretty happy with the first period. Despite one of the lines that the Jets had not playing too well. But again, we'll jump into that soon, I'm sure. But yeah, pretty decent. I cannot complain about the first period whatsoever. Jumping into the second period, first 10 minutes of that period were actually, I thought, really, really good. The Jets, for the first time in a while now, I felt like I was able to sit back and go, the Jets are actually playing pretty good defense right now. They weren't allowing a lot of high-quality shots. Again, we're talking about the first 10 minutes of the second period. I thought that they were pretty good until all hell breaks loose, and this is kind of when the Jets get put on their back feet a little bit. And I find that when other teams start to take it to the Jets, they start to crumble, and this is where, their mistakes all come from. Luckily, though, they escaped the second period without any goals against. The Devils hit like 3 posts that period. So there were, like I said, a ton of chances that definitely could have gone in. But again, you look at the end of that period, the Jets are still up 2-1. You look at the expected goals, like pretty even. Like again, I actually looking at it right now on Money Puck, it looks like it was almost exactly even right at this point in the game. So again, I gotta say for the Jets, despite how everything kind of was built up in the second period, there were a lot of chances that the Devils got in the second half. I thought the Jets did decently to, bring it back against them and do pretty well. Obviously, I believe there was a power play in that in the second period there, and we're going to touch on the power play because, of course, we got new power play lines as well. But again, second period, not too bad. But like I said, they finished off the second period just barely getting through it. So I really was hoping in the third period we would see the Jets come out and really put their foot down again. This is they're playing against a New Jersey team. New Jersey is very good. They're a good team. They're one of the top teams in the East. Obviously, we know they had a ton of success early on in the season and have continued it throughout the rest of the season. But they played last night, so you gotta hope. They play last night. They travel. They're back in New Jersey. You gotta hope that the Jets can make some hay while the other team is probably a little more tired than you are. The Jets, again, they didn't have a morning practice today. They skated yesterday, and again haven't played since the brutal game against Columbus. So you should hope that the Jets are gonna be the sharper, harder playing team in the third period. You would hope that their effort would carry them through this. Again, they're entering the third period with a lead. And starting off the third period, the first two shifts, really good. After those first two shifts, not great, to say the least. Not great. But like I said, New Jersey was pushing, and then basically what exactly ends up happening here is the Jets kind of get just a little, they just loosen up. They get a little too loose for, I don't know, 5 minutes when they score? Like, how far apart were those goals? They scored at, let me see, where's the time on this goal? 14:58 remaining in the third, and the other one was 13:07. So again, 2 minutes, just 2 minutes is all it takes against this Devils team. And I got to say, I'm pretty sure we do have a couple Devils people here in the chat. I saw mentioning earlier on. I got to say, your team, man, wow, they're fast. I almost said Quinn Hughes. Sorry, guys. Not yet. Maybe you guys might get him soon. But wow, Jack Hughes, every time I watch him, he is lights out. That guy is so dynamic, so fast. You guys got a good one. I'm very happy for you guys. But not happy when I'm playing you guys because he is as a monster. But again, continuing on through that third period, the big issue is for 2 minutes, the Jets have a complete lapse in defense. The first one happens when Pierre-Luc Dubois is on with Kyle Connor as well as Saku Maenalainen. The puck gets shot kind of down low, and Maenalainen ends up being the guy who's covering the slot. However, if you watch this goal, it was created from a pass that came out from behind the net, which is, again, going to happen again in a moment. We'll talk about it. And Saku Maenalainen is just not covering anyone. He is standing there. He's staring at the puck. How many times, guys? How many times on this broadcast have I come to you guys and just been like, the Jets got scored on because they were staring at the puck, not covering their men? And again, this is just a complete lapse in error. We'll talk about that line in a minute because we have to. They were bad tonight, very bad. But like I said, we'll get to it. And this all kind of started with just a poor passing play in the offensive zone. Kyle Connor and Pierre-Luc Dubois are making these tight little passes that don't really put the puck into open space. And again, the Devils are a fast team. They're able to get their sticks in the way very easily on the Jets. Tonight definitely seemed like a night where the Jets didn't have a lot of space. So again, having two players in close, tight together, trying to make little passes that aren't really doing anything to, open up space and progress towards the net. Again, they get caught on this, and that's what kind of starts the play going back to their end. And it finishes off with a defensive lapse by Saku Maenalainen in the slot, and Zetterlund is the lucky winner of the goal. This one goes in off the post, I believe. So you guys got one back there finally after the 3 posts in the second period. But this goal kind of felt inevitable. Again, like I said, the Devils were really pushing against the Jets. And like I said, 2 minutes later, not even 2 minutes later, the Devils score once again on a play created behind the net. This one was a little bit more intricate, and as much as I love Josh Morrissey, I think he's got to wear the goat horns on this one. Puck gets dumped into the left corner. Dylan DeMello goes in with the first forechecker. The Devils player is able to grab the puck, and as he's going behind the net, he cycles it back to the corner. Adam Lowry takes his man, goes into the corner as well. And Josh Morrissey, instead of stopping up in front of the net, again, the issue is in front of the net always for the Jets. Whenever their defensive lapses happen, it's always something in the slot that someone is not covering. Josh Morrissey, I guess, maybe just thought that the puck was going to go behind the net again. So he kind of cheats and goes under the goal line. But right now you're sitting here and you've got Lowry in the left corner fighting that battle with the guy. Unfortunately, he loses. Again, below the red line, you have Josh Morrissey coming in below the red line, and then also Dylan DeMello, who was just covering his man, and rightfully so, is below the goal line. makes a nice pass out front. Miles Wood, he's going to take those every day. Puts that one home. And just not great by the Jets. And then we get to some shenaniganery in the final 10 minutes of the game, where New Jersey first takes a penalty. This one, Kevin Sawyer, if there's any Devils fans listening, we have a color commentator, Kevin Sawyer. He often just kind of frequently on the broadcast, he'll just sit there and go, you should let the guys play, blah blah blah, this and that. Brendan Dillon was lucky to get this penalty called in our favor. I think I'll admit that. But it also made sense because, whoever it was in front, I can't remember who actually took the penalty for New Jersey, gives Brendan Dillon a cross check. He gives one back. And then the Devils player gives another cross check and kind of trips Brendan Dillon up. Again, as soon as the guy goes down, that's usually when the refs will call it. But I think the refs internally had a bit of that might have been soft. And that kind of dictates what happens in the next little bit. The power play gets going again. We'll talk about the power play after we're still finishing up breaking down the game. And there is a moment where there's the Devils are able to get the puck against the boards in the offensive zone. They're playing hard to try and just waste the time. Everyone's kind of digging at it, and Nikolai Ehlers is standing there. He's trying to get his stick in. He's trying to play, and I believe it was Miles Wood. Again, correct me if I'm wrong. I'm sorry. I'm awful with remembering the players, and I was in such a fit of rage that I did not note it down. Gives Ehlers a bit of a cross check. Ehlers turns around, looks at him, and is like, what the man? Like, I don't have the puck. He gets another cross check from him. A bit of a softer one. I wouldn't call this one necessarily a cross check, but definitely a shove. And then he gets another cross check. And then on top of that, he just comes in and just absolutely pitchforks Nikolai Ehlers' skate out from under him. Unfortunately, this was happening right in front of the referee. No call. Nothing. And again, I want to be clear here. This is not the reason the Jets lost. It's just a nitpicky thing. And it's just I just wish that we had some consistency in this league. And speaking on consistency, like I said, right after this, almost the exact same style of play happens. It's the second PP on now. It's after the power play is done. Morgan Barron ends up in the corner, kind of fighting with Dougie Hamilton. Dougie Hamilton gives him a bit of a shove, and then Barron turns around, gives him a cross check, and Dougie Hamilton just goes flying, which, again, I'm not going to say if he dove or not. I don't think he did. I think he just got pushed hard. Barron's a big, strong guy. I believe that was not, a dive or anything like that. However, this one gets called, apparently. Again, one cross check, and hey, would you look at that? It just happens to even up the penalties. Brutal call by the ref. Like, again, it's all about consistency. I don't care if you're going to take the old school mind of let the boys play, or if you're going to say call the rule book as it is. Regardless, consistency. That's all we ask for. And again, this exact thing happened right in your face with Nikolai Ehlers. No call. Again, and it's a game where the Jets are trying to get back into it. It is what it is. We'll move on from that. Saku Maenalainen draws another penalty on the PK. This and that, whatever. The Jets, unfortunately, try pushing. They don't get what they need. And it's just a little too late. Dawson Mercer just puts one in to ice the game. It is a 4-2 win for the New Jersey Devils. Alrighty, before we hop into this, we are going to, I'm going to take a look into the chat here and have a sip of water. Let's see. Oh, Noah Laforte, our game over MVP of the chat every time, coming in with quotes from post-game scrums. Helly says he would be ready for tomorrow if his number is called. Again, we have another game tomorrow against the Rangers, so I would not be I wouldn't be surprised to see Helly play, just because he kind of is coming off of that. He had that illness and hasn't played too much since after the All-Star break, so it would be really interesting to see how he does if he were to play the back-to-back, but I wouldn't be too surprised to see if they go with Riddick, just because, You want to make sure your goal is good for the playoffs. Other quotes here. Quotes from the coach. Quotes from the coach. Turnovers were self-inflicted, not because of the Devils' skill. I agree and I disagree. I think you do have to give some credit to the Devils. They did play really well tonight, and played really hard on the Jets. But at the same time, I do also completely agree. The turnovers were self-inflicted. There were a lot of just poor passing plays, trying to make passes that just didn't make sense. But it is what it is. And then to continue on with the quotes from the coach, haven't made a decision on who starts tomorrow. So we'll see what it is. But it is what it is. Sorry, just a moment. I didn't end up taking my sip of water. Okay. All right. So yeah, and then as we look into the chat here, Dave Smith, better question. Why is Saku Menelainen on the ice with Dubois and Connor? Alrighty, guys. We gotta talk about those lines. I will say this. Again, just to repeat or did I already say them? I think I already said them. But yeah, Connor, Dubois, Menelainen, Perfetti, Scheifele, Appleton, Ehlers, Lowry, Wheeler, and Barron, Stenlund, and Kuhlman. On the Dubois line. I understand, just in general, on the makeup of the lines. I don't completely disagree with the philosophy behind these lines. Once again, after last game, something needed to change. And, we were all kind of speculating on Twitter, trying to see what was going to happen with these lines. Were these lines going to start and then, get changed after a period? Was this to send a message to the guys? Was this a earnest, let's try this? Regardless, let's treat it like, because, we saw them play these lines pretty much the entire game. Let's treat it like it was an earnest, let's try this. The philosophy behind it is, again, you play your two duos together, your skill guys, and then you get a grinder, someone who's able to work in the corners and try and just get the puck to your players. However, in my opinion, I don't think it's necessarily that you need a grinder, but you need someone who's good at puck possession, someone who's able to, again, get you the puck, which is, again, the output that you're looking for from the grinder. I'm just saying it doesn't have to be a grinder. It just needs to be someone who's able to get puck possession and forecheck hard, which often is a grinder. But looking at it here, I would never have selected Saku Menelainen to be put on that line with Dubois and Connor. Again, looking at this, just looking at the grinder types, I would have much rather Morgan Barron there. I still think that Morgan Barron has a lot of untapped potential. And, barring any sort of trade, I think that he'll be a good piece for the Jets going forward as he continues to mature and get better. I see him kind of in almost like an Andrew Kopp style of player where he's going to develop, be good defensively, play hard, and then can be, a sneaky underrated guy who can get some points and help out in the top six. But alas, we'll get there. So yeah, I do not understand the reasoning of putting Saku Menelainen on that line. And, just taking, a look at the actual output of that line. If you go to Money Puck right now and you sort by forward lines for the Jets, the Connor Dubois Menelainen line is sitting at a cool 8.75% expected goals. They did not have a shot until the third period. Two periods straight where they played and they did not get anything. And even just looking at the time on ice, that was the second highest, looking at 5-on-5 play, they had the second highest time on ice. Obviously the Perfetti, Scheifele, Appleton line, which we'll talk about in a moment, which is kind of the other side of this coin. The Perfetti line had 12 minutes on ice, and the Dubois Menelainen Connor line had 7 minutes and 56 seconds on the ice. Again, all at 5v5. It is what it is. That line was awful tonight. And I don't think that we can pin the blame only on Saku Menelainen. While I don't think that he did anything to help that line, we got to start giving some criticism to Kyle Connor and Pierre-Luc Dubois. Um, if you want to take the side of Menelainen is a bit of an anchor for that line, I definitely saw moments tonight where Kyle Connor was trying to create something, and Menelainen just wasn't as dynamic, wasn't moving enough, and you could see that Kyle Connor was looking for something and just didn't find anything. But at the same time tonight, like I said, going back to that one, the third goal that New Jersey scored, they're just not making great passes. They're not. Something's off. When those two got put together, Dubois kind of helped get Kyle Connor going this year. Because prior to that, he was having a lot of trouble scoring. And I think that they've done well playing together. But recently, it just seems like the effort isn't really there as much. It just doesn't seem like the output is there. The execution isn't really there. I think that if you're going to play Dubois and Connor together, I think that they're a case where you can go, all right, you can put a guy like Nick Ehlers with them. You can put a guy who's got some speed who can play with those guys, because I think that they work well in a 3-person system. Whereas when, Dubois and Connor just kind of have to shoulder the load and have a passenger with them, it just doesn't work. And especially with Saku Menelainen, like it was bad. And if you've tuned in before, you'll know that I think that Saku Menelainen shouldn't even be in the lineup right now. I'd much rather, as much as I don't really love Kuhlman, I would much prefer to have Kuhlman in the lineup. I'd prefer to have Sam Gagner in the lineup. I'd much prefer to have Axel Jonsson-Fjallby if he were called up. I'd rather have Jansen Harkins. There are so many players on this team who I think deserve to play on it more than Saku Menelainen. But again, Saku Menelainen provides a lot of value on a lot of value on the PK. Like that's where he is good. And don't get me wrong. And again, he's a good PKer. Like you have to admit that. Like he is a good PKer, but he that's all he does. And the way the league is going right now, you need to have 4 lines who can play at 5v5. And again, I think that the Jets are much better off with a Stenlund, AJF, Kuhlman, Barron, Gagner, whoever on that fourth line, other than Saku Menelainen, but especially in the top 6, you should never be seeing Saku Menelainen in your top 6. Moving on, the Perfetti, Scheifele, Appleton line was fantastic tonight. They created everything for the Jets. I found, both the goals that the Jets scored come from that line. Man, I really love Perfetti with Mark Scheifele. I think that they are a great duo. If you can find the right guy to play on their right, I think that that's a fantastic line that you don't need to really touch, in my opinion. The guy who needs to play on the right, though, has to be a guy with speed, because when we look back at Wheeler playing on that line, the biggest frustration was they just didn't have enough speed. Perfetti isn't the most fleet of foot guy, so I think Appleton, if you're going to play the duos with, a bit of a grindier guy, I think that Appleton is the right guy to play with those guys, and I wouldn't be, I'd be happy to see them play again. I think they need to do something to fix the Dubois line as well as the Lowry line, which we can get into now as well. Lowry, Ehlers, Wheeler, this was just a weird line. It just felt like nothing really was being created a ton. There were times where they were a little bit dangerous, but it felt like just 1 or 2 passes didn't, everything up to a certain point was working out, and then 1 or 2 passes would just not really work out. Guys would be crisp when they should be crossing. So it didn't really work, I found. And then, say what you will about the fourth line. Barron, Stenlund, Kuhlman, that's a good fourth line. If Lowry, if the Jets don't add a guy to bump Lowry down in the lineup, and they only add on the wings, if you end up with Barron, Stenlund, Kuhlman on your fourth line, totally fine with me. I know there's a lot of people who aren't a big fan of Carson Kuhlman, but I think in the bottom 6 he provides some value. But it is what it is. All right. One final check of the chat. And have another sip. From Christopher Ward in the chat, NJ pounced quickly on shifts after goals. Winnipeg did the opposite. I completely agree. That was definitely one of the issues, and it just felt like there wasn't enough of a response from the Jets. Too casual. I don't always love praising Scott Billeck because sometimes he has some tough takes, but he had a tweet tonight that basically just said, too casual. The Jets, were way too casual on. I don't have the tweet in front of me, unfortunately. But too casual, no response to the goal against, and then they get scored on again, and no response until after, the emotion gets kind of elevated in the last 10 minutes of the game. But it is what it is. It was rough. One final thing I want to touch on from the game, of course, like I said, we saw a new look power play from the Jets. Rick Bowness said after last game he wanted to switch up those lines. And tonight we definitely got some different power plays, that's for sure. So what I'm going to consider is the first power play, just because they started, as well as I think they have more of the firepower on it. But they're both pretty evenly spread out. You have Pierre-Luc Dubois in front. Sorry, I'm blanking out. Nick Ehlers playing the left side flank, doing his usual stuff. Neil Pionk on the point, Kyle Connor in his one-timer spot, and Kevin Stenlund in the middle as the kind of the bumper. I thought that was when they were on the ice, I thought they did pretty well power play wise. They did create a decent amount in the first. I think it was the first power play, whereas later in the game they weren't as good. But all I have to say is, thank you, Rick. Thank you, Rick Bowness, for making Nick Ehlers the zone entry guy. Oh my God. Oh my God. When Nick Ehlers was on power play 1 to start the year, unfortunately, they just kept having Kyle Connor be the zone entry guy. And tonight you saw how good a power play can be when Nick Ehlers is the zone entry guy. It's almost automatic for him. Either he gets pressured at the line, he just chips it past a guy and goes in deep, and he's the fastest guy on the ice, so he's going to be the first guy into the corner, and then it's essentially a chip and chase, but you're guaranteed to have the first guy there. So at very least, you have a guy on the puck, whereas a lot of times before when the Jets were trying to enter the zone, they would chip it in, and not always did they get a guy into the corner fast enough to actually challenge on the point, to try and keep the puck in. And so frequently the opposing team would just be able to, rim it out, and then you're restarting again. Wow, so much better. I would love to see them go back to the initial power play that they tried with Nick Ehlers on it for PP1 back in, when he kind of got back from injury. And just have him be the zone entry guy and see what happens. That was the biggest frustration back then, was that Kyle Connor was the zone entry guy. And then we have the other power play now, where you have Cole Perfetti, who's playing the bumper slot in the middle. I singled him out first because the other two guys I felt like very connected. So you have Josh Morrissey on the point with Nate Schmidt in the one-timer spot on the right, as well as Mark Scheifele in his one-timer spot on the left, and Blake Wheeler playing kind of like a net front goal line kind of spot. I actually really like Blake Wheeler there. If you're going to play him on the power play, I think that's the spot he should be. The reason, though, I kind of said those in pairs, though, is that I found on this power play, they really focused on getting some movement because, one of the things that apparently Rick Bowness was really, really trying to hammer into the guys was the fact that they need more movement on their power play, and I completely agree. Again, I've said it 1,000 times on this show. The Jets do best when they create chaos, and on their power play, that's why I always am a big proponent of Nick Ehlers, even regardless of the fact that he is, the best Jet forward, in my opinion. Yeah, so again, with this, second power play unit, they wanted to have a lot of movement. You saw, Scheifele and Wheeler switching up spots. You saw both Morrissey and Schmidt switching up spots. So at least there was a little bit of dynamicness to that power play that is frequently very stationary. So I actually really liked it. I think that splitting a power play isn't really a good thing for success in the future. But I think it is a decent thing to do now, and I think it's important to do now because the Jets did need a shakeup, and right now, The guys need to know that their spots aren't safe. Like you're not automatically on the top line because you're Mark Scheifele. On the top power play because you're Mark Scheifele. You're not automatically on the top power play because you're Cole Perfetti, because you're Nick Ehlers, because you're Pierre-Luc Dubois, this, that, the other thing. And I think that through doing this, the Jets will find what really works for them, as well as which players work in which positions. So I think that the switch up was really good. Obviously, the second power play had a couple really good looks. There was the one in the third period where Cole Perfetti had a Cody Ceci-esque miss by a mile. That was rough, especially to see, but I actually don't mind Perfetti on that bumper spot. I think that he would be better served in a spot where he could probably have a bit more influence on the puck and dish it out and kind of be the next generation of the Blake Wheeler on the power play, a guy who can just make crazy passes and has crazy vision. But I actually don't mind him in the slot there, especially with how they kind of played it. You can see the forwards are on the left side and deep, and then again the two defensemen playing the top and the right side. I thought they did really well. So despite not scoring on the power play, I think that at least this was a step forward. Tomorrow we'll probably see the same setup, I would guess. So we'll have more to report on then. So we'll talk tomorrow. But other than that, yeah, I mean, that's the game. It was a pretty tough loss for the Jets. Again, the biggest thing is that they kind of just go to sleep for 5 minutes every game. I was really hoping to see a full 60-minute effort here. And again, we got 55, but you got to play 60 minutes or else you can't win. And despite all of the, all the shenaniganery with all the refs in the final 10 minutes of the game, good teams find a way to win. You gotta figure it out. You gotta put the puck in the net, or you gotta not allow it. And again, I thought that they played pretty well. Their defense was pretty decent tonight, but alas, I digress. We'll talk more tomorrow about that. Before I do go there, we're gonna do a little more trade deadline update, because there was there's a conversation going around on Twitter the other day. Nick Kypreos came out with an article basically saying that you should keep an eye on the Jets in regards to the Timo Meier watch. Which, obviously we're all here salivating, just wishing that we could have Timo Meier on this team. But basically he just said that watch out for them. They're a sneaky team. And at the end of the day, they do hold a bit of a trump card in Cole Perfetti. In all of the talk that we've had around Timo Meier, as us Jets fans, and very interesting to talk about here, of course, considering we were playing the New Jersey Devils, who are the other front runners for Timo Meier. Cole Perfetti seems to be a prospect, I feel like, that kind of outranks the other prospects that other teams have available. I mean, the main team that we've seen bandied about, again, like I said, is the New Jersey Devils, and I just do not see them giving up a Simon Nemec. Nemec? I can't remember. The Slovakian guy that they took second overall this past year, the year before. I don't know. COVID is completely. I don't remember what year is which year. But he's a great prospect, so I just don't see them giving him up. As well as they have Luke Hughes, which there's absolutely no way they're giving up Luke Hughes, just purely on the brother thing. They're potentially going to add Quinn Hughes if they can at some point. So I would be very surprised to see either of those two guys go. And then other than that, it's the next guy they have is Alexander Holtz, who's really good, but I'm not sure. I don't know if he outranks Cole Perfetti. And again, I don't want to talk and say, I don't want to say that I'm just immediately going to the Devils and offering them Cole Perfetti. I think the Jets have the assets not on the active roster to get this trade done. Again, Rutger McGroarty, Brad Lambert, Ville Heinola, I guess Dylan Samper's on the active lineup. They've got tons of prospects. They've got their picks that they can trade, or at least they still have their first that they can trade. I see the Jets being able to get this deal done without having to reach into the active lineup. But if push comes to shove, I wouldn't be surprised to see, I would be surprised, but I wouldn't be too upset. This is my question for the chat right now. Would you give up Cole Perfetti in a Timo Meier deal? If that's a deal that comes without any extension, I'm a little more sketchy towards it. But at the end of the day, you still have an asset that even if without the extension, like Timo Meier is such an upgrade on Cole Perfetti. I love Cole Perfetti. I have a Cole Perfetti reverse retro coming in the mail. I should be getting it at some point soon. I'm not sure where it's at this point, but I love this guy. He is one of my favorite Jets easily. But especially if it's a deal that involves an extension, I'll drive him to the airport myself. Like, I'll pack his bags. I'll drive him to the airport myself. I just don't think that people realize how good Timo Meier is, and how much he would help the Jets. He's a guy that both, the older fan base and newer fan base, the eye test guys will love, as well as the analytics crowd. He is phenomenal, a fantastic player. And I'll be honest, I don't see them actually trading Cole Perfetti for Timo Meier. If the price gets that high, I could see the Jets, switching up and going towards the JVR route, which, we've heard a ton of recently. But alas, it is what it is. Anyways, guys, this has been a fun show. Again, tough loss, 4-2 to the Devils, but we are going to run it back again tomorrow night. The Jets have 3 games in 4 days. They are going to be in MSG tomorrow playing the Rangers, where Morgan Barron gets a little bit of a return to home. It'll be really interesting to see how the Jets bounce back. We'll see if Connor Hellebuyck starts, if Dave Riddick gets the call. Not too sure. Hopefully Nikolai Ehlers is okay. Again, we got no updates just yet. But we'll see what we are doing. Noah Lafort, no chance. I guess I assume this is in regards to trading Cole Perfetti. Please clarify if you're talking about whether you think it would happen, or if it would be what, or if it's just in regards to trading Perfetti. He says no chance unless we are going all in and also getting a Chychrun. Then I would trade anything for both him and Meier. I don't see the Jets getting both Chychrun and Meier. I would love to. Again, this is the year where the Jets really do need to go all in my opinion. The next 2 years are the window is coming to a close real quick. Getting a Timo Meier would definitely potentially lengthen that if they're able to get him on an extension. And even if not, like I said, you should still be trying to acquire him. He's the best player available at the deadline, and if you can't work out anything in the offseason, you can always trade him. You still retain his rights. And if not, the Jets are one of the few teams that can afford his $10 million qualifying offer if he really wants to go that route. So personally, I think that the Jets are the perfect fit for him, just in the fact that they have the assets needed, as well as they are kind of in a point where they need to go for it now. And as I was saying last show, why did you trade Brian Little's LTIR contract, and not put guys on, LTIR earlier in the season? It was because they wanted to accumulate cap space. All for now. So you got to put your chips in at some point. You got to do what you got to do. Anyways, guys, thank you all for tuning in. It has been a blast. Well, like I said, we'll catch you all tomorrow against the Rangers. I hope you're having a great long weekend. I'm certainly enjoying it. I'm very excited that I don't have to wake up early on Monday, but it is what it is. Have yourselves a great evening. Follow me on Twitter at NHL Chunky. Follow at SDPN Sports. Check out Andrew Berkshire and Adam Wilde did the Hot Wings Challenge after the Leafs game the other night, the Leafs Habs game. Go check that out. It's pretty funny. And yeah, we'll see you guys tomorrow. Thank you all for tuning in.
Game over! Powered by Sports Interaction, Canada Sportsbook.